Hello and welcome back to the Raspberry Podcast. Today I am joined by Jeff Ippon Lawson. Jeff is someone that I've wanted to chat to for a really long time. He's a guy that I've been watching compete for a very long time and a very well-known, well-respected member of the UK Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu community and also the UK MMA community. He is one of the people who are back in the early days, old school UK MMA. He was on the first UK versus USA season of the Ultimate Fighter show. And yeah, I've wanted to talk to Jeff for a really long time. Really glad that I finally managed to track him down and stick a mic in front of him. And we had a really good chat. Spoke about how he got into martial arts, MMA, and talking about teaching, and then getting into some other stuff such as ayahuasca and plant medicine and the like. Really enjoyed chatting to him, and I hope you guys enjoy listening. Check it out. How you been, mate?
I've been great. Yeah, I'm really excited to get back to the gym and see all the faces. And from the lockdown, you don't realise how much you miss. Yeah. Even, people that wouldn't occur into your day-to-day thing. You just miss everyone, don't you? You just miss everything that goes on. And my gym is, integral to my stability, really, which I probably shouldn't tie my stability to the gym. But
mate, I totally understand that, and I think it is what it is, and it is. I think you're perhaps someone who is, basically, because it's the same for me. And I actually stopped teaching. I left my teaching position in the end of 2019. With the intention of taking some time for myself, being able to travel and compete and do seminars and stuff without having to worry about teaching. Because I've been teaching for 12 years beforehand, continuously, no break. And it's the last year and a half has taught me that it's integral to my welfare as well, and it's something that I absolutely miss. And I think some people do and some people don't. And I think, we share that feeling where, and I think, you can look at it as a negative that you're tied to, that your sense of well-being is tied to an external source. But at the same time, like, that is part of what makes us human, right?
Oh, completely.
It's like being part of that tribe, being part of that group.
Yeah, because it wouldn't be there if not, would it? Those things, we'd just be on our own in rooms. If we could find everything inside ourselves, and nothing external, what would be the point of society? What would be the point of having other people around you? Oh, great. I'm not feeling anything at the moment because you're not giving me anything. I can find it all myself. It's just pointless, isn't it? It's just absolutely pointless. So, that's why we build up these groups and these gatherings. People need it. They need that tribal,
100%. And I think that's never been more... never been more known and seen by everyone than it is at the moment.
Completely. Yeah, completely. There's a lot of negatives that have come out of the lockdown and stuff. And I think you have to be a certain frame of mind to pull those positives out. And, and there are a lot of people that are pulling positives out of it. There are people that are going down the conspiracy depths of the conspiracy, and to what end? It is to what end, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm all up for a conspiracy. I love, a bit of this and a bit of that, and
got to keep it within some reasonable bounds, though.
What's the point? I'm seeing some of my friends going down there, and I don't want to say anything. It's just leave them to it. It's their own thing. And one of the, and I know we're sort of on the same wavelength of things, but one of the teachings that I've picked up on is you always. And it helped me through lockdown, actually, is to think that life is working for you, not against you. And that's a really, a really nice way to live. Is life is working for you, it's not working against you. And
absolutely.
Oh, yeah. And it just changes it. It just changes it. You go, oh, what about this? People doing that, people doing this. No, it's working in your favour. So,
Man, that is the deepest 4 minutes to the start of a podcast that I've had so far.
Probably.
We wasted no time there. I love it.
Yeah.
And we'll get back there. But I wanted to, as I do with most guests, I've been wanting to get you on for a long time. You know, I wrote a list when I first started. It's been I think it's been about 5 years since I started the podcast. And I had a list very early on, and your name was on there as like an old school MMA guy in the UK MMA scene, and also obviously sort of a big name in the jiu-jitsu world and very well respected gentleman in the world of UK Brazilian jiu-jitsu. So I want to start off with sort of how did you, and I'm going to just go and hazard a guess that coming from your nickname that your martial arts journey started in judo.
Oh, it certainly did. Yeah, it really did. So I was a bit of a runaway kid. You know, I was naughty and, you know, a bit of a rogue, really. And we used to go and take the piss out of the guys in their like custard coloured judo gis. We used to go in there, kick the doors open and go, "What are you lot doing?" And go, "Wah!" You know, like drunk people do. Do the old karate hands and then run out. Well, my judo coach, he must have waited for me because he wasn't my judo coach at the time. He was just the guy teaching it. And he grabbed me back when you could and pulled me on the mats, and all the kids kicked the crap out of me.
No way.
But you know what? I stayed. And that was it. You know, he just pulled me on the mat. But here's the thing. He knew my family as well. So he knew who I was and he knew what I was up to. But, you know, you couldn't do that now.
Yeah.
But he just got hold of me. He said, "Think you chuck me on the mat?" And
So how old were you at this point?
I think I was probably 8.
That's one of the, I did not expect that. And that is one of the best how I got into martial arts that I've heard.
Yeah.
You literally got pulled onto the mats and given a little beating.
Got
amazing,
beaten up, but I stayed and it was good. And
so was it just straight after that you thought, okay, I'm in?
Yeah. That was. I think I just. Do you know? It was back in the day. You could just wander around and do stuff. You know, I remember I used to walk 3 miles in my judo suit with my yellow belt on, past groups of teenagers, this and that, and I was proud as punch walking. And I used to come in and I'd have mud on them because I used to walk a big field. But you know, that's my roots. That's where I started, and that's how I started, and I just stuck at it. There's something about grappling more than the other stuff that got me. You know, I tried karate. I think I went to a kung fu class once, maybe, but none of it was just sort of I'm doing that in the air, and you know. Whereas judo, I could just get hold of someone, squeeze their head, and hold them down, and it did exactly the same back to me. You know, I guess my body recognised it as being more real. Yeah,
and I kind of, although I was a fair bit older than you when I sort of went through that journey of trying a few different martial arts before I landed on one, I definitely felt that same thing, which is, now obviously you would go on to do MMA and have a much more well-rounded experience in the martial arts in general, opposed to myself who just stuck with grappling. But I do think there's something in grappling which is different from all the other martial arts that is sort of a biological evolutionary instinct that humans have.
100%. Humans and lots of other things.
Well, you watch animals, you know.
Man, you've seen those aardvarks rolling around. It's amazing.
Kangaroo, you see the video of that kangaroo choking that other kangaroo unconscious?
Yeah. And there's the dog as well. They've got a dog. Oh, there's all sorts of animals doing it. I do like watching those videos.
You've got to take inspiration sometimes from that. There's some good techniques out there.
You know, look at kids as well. Kids just rough and tumble. All they want to do is get on you, and you know, your own kids, and roll around, and it's just, I suppose it's kind of strength training, isn't it?
Yeah.
Without the strength stuff, it's, you know, you can move your muscles this way against another person. And
well, you know, with animals, it's animals play fight. You know, in the animal kingdom, very few things are done for leisure. You know, everything is done as a means to survive.
It's practice.
And it's practice for hunting.
Yep.
And it's practice for fighting. And you got to think, is that why we like to grapple? Is that why kids like to wrestle?
Do you know what? I never thought that.
Is that something that actually goes back to when we did have to fight each other, or we did have to jump on an animal if you wanted to take it out?
Yeah.
You know, is that it, or are we, is it something that in most people in society, it's actually beaten out of them through society, tells you actually you can't roughhouse with each other after the age of, you know, 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 or whatever it is. You know, you can't be wrestling around with each other. I've always found something so fascinating in some people's aversion to violence. even if it's not dangerous violence. I think there needs to be a distinction between that. I think, and there's definitely, I hate to stereotype, and I don't want to, but there is a big difference between males and females in this in these scenarios where whenever guys get into a fight, the women in a group, in my experience anyway, and I know from other people's experience, it's like the most horrific thing that they've ever seen. They really hate it, whereas for the men, it is a more natural thing. And, I feel like society really condemns safe violence, and then you get to a point and then you start martial art, and then it kind of goes backwards, and actually you're no longer condemning safe violence. I want to differentiate between someone glassing someone outside of a pub and two guys resting on the floor because they had an argument. Or even having a straightener, fists up and having a straightener, but not kicking someone once they're knocked out. I need to differentiate between sort of that safe violence for an oxymoron and sort of dangerous and deadly violence. But I think I feel that when I grapple, it's something more than what it is. It goes backwards. I feel like it's real instinctive.
No, I don't think you'll ever get that. People will go, "Oh, don't worry, they're just wrestling on the ground." Were they?
Man, that's the the utopia that I visualize in my dreams.
But I can see that. And that would be tough, wouldn't it? That would be ideal, wouldn't it? But with the violence, I think we'll always be the minority, won't we? We'll always be what we do. I know it is Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is. Does it come under the TMA banner? It
traditional martial art?
Yeah, it would do. Really,
I would say no. For me personally, I think taking less the fact that it is traditional and more the fact that I kind of categorize fight sports and not so fight sports.
As
Judo, boxing, jiu-jitsu, sambo, wrestling, kickboxing as fight sports, and aikido and touch karate and and all of that stuff as not
TMA.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that's they're very acceptable, aren't they? The TMAs. Traditional martial arts are very acceptable. People like to watch them. You can do a good demonstration. We couldn't do a good demonstration to people that didn't understand grappling.
Do you not think?
Man, I could do all sorts of flips and jumps and stuff and all that stuff.
But you could do a fantastic demonstration.
I could, but there's some of the, I don't know, it wouldn't get as many woos as some numpty chopping boards, would it? Do you know what I mean?
I think it's sort of like a fight scene in a ridiculous kung fu film that is completely unrealistic.
Yeah.
Looks more impressive than a fight scene from a film that is trying to be more true to life.
Oh man, I love the John Wick films, don't you? They're awesome.
That's kind of a mix between the two.
It's
right?
getting there, isn't it?
It is getting there. It's getting there.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it is interesting, isn't it? So you think that traditional martial arts are sort of more...
Because there's something you can send your kids to that you don't... Oh, I don't want him to get hurt.
Because they don't actually fight.
Oh, exactly. It's more... It's simpler to send your kid there that's not going to get a black eye. It's not going to get, their ear chewed up, or not literally chewed up.
Yeah.
But their arm's broken, but they can do kata all day long. Great. There's horses for courses, isn't it? And there's always going to be the acceptable stuff and people that... I mean, did you see on the judo forums lately about the guys kicking off about mixed martial arts?
No.
It's still happening. It's mental.
This must be such an interesting place for you to be, a unique position that there are a few people, but certainly someone who is, so well versed in judo and also a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, where you kind of step in both of these worlds and you can see both sides, both perspectives, and see sort of this ongoing almost conflict between the old school ways of judo in the UK and sort of the new school MMA and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Definitely. Well, the new school MMA is just, now, back when I was doing it, it was still almost I could fight Thai boxers.
Yeah.
And I could fight a karate guy. You know, this is. I mean, well, you know, that's what it was. I'm sure that I fought a kung fu guy. There were very few back when I started.
So
Mixed martial artists.
So let's go back there and say. So you start judo at 8 years old.
8 years old,
and you have an affinity for the grappling part of it. Take us through that journey. You do jujitsu. You do judo consistently through your childhood.
Yeah. So I did. I was doing judo the entire time, and I stopped probably doing judo when I was about 30.
30.
I'm 42 now.
Wow.
But I stopped doing structured judo classes. I still do judo all the time, just on jiu-jitsu people.
Yeah.
It's the same, you know.
Much easier, I imagine.
Yes. Yeah. Do you know what, though, Dan? It is, because judo players are hard to throw, man.
Yeah. Well,
they are hard to throw. They're easy to take down, judo players.
If you grab the legs.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
But they're hard to throw because their timing's really good, and their defense, their throwing defense is really, really good. They're jigotai. So I did judo. I stopped doing judo classes. It might be 31, 32. But it was around then. But before I finished my judo career, what did I do? Back in the day, the Combat Sports Championships.
Okay.
So I entered that doing nothing but judo.
And what was the Combat Sports Championships?
The British Combat Sports Championships was run by a guy called Dale Adams in Swindon or Gloucester or somewhere like that. So I used to go up there, and there's still a few names knocking around. Paul Jenkins used to do it, and Paul Sutherland, who's a very good MMA coach. And they were there, and Lee Remedios used to take some of his students there. It was just an amateur on the judo mats mixed martial arts event, basically. So I did about 4 or 5 of these. I had 10 amateur fights, and they were no headshots, and bloody hell, they wore judo belts. Why they wore judo belts is beyond me, because I could get a hold of that judo belt, and Uchimata, all of these guys with a belt.
They were wearing a gi as well?
They weren't wearing a gi.
It was no gi with a belt on?
It was no gi with a belt on.
And was the belt there to be grabbed?
You could grab it.
Yeah.
I did. But there was no headshot. So, you know, I mean, it would have been a different story had I fought someone like Paul Jenkins punching me in the head. I hadn't been punched in the head, in the face, only at school. And it was something completely alien. That would have been something completely alien to me. So I moved into that towards the end of my judo career. And then I started doing a little bit of Thai boxing with Gary Turner up in Surrey, the Budokan. It's a really mouldy old dojo near Camberley, actually. And we started doing a bit of kickboxing with Gary, and we started doing a bit of Thai boxing and sport jiu-jitsu. Sport jiu-jitsu is like judo and points fighting karate.
Okay.
So it's a very good prelude to MMA.
Yeah.
Very, very good prelude to MMA. The Brazilian jiu-jitsu guys would mash them up completely. You know, you couldn't. It would be no contest, but some of them were really good points fighters, really, really good. But anyway, so I got into that, and then that moved me into, I did the amateur MMA, and then I moved into pro MMA. But pro MMA was just literally, Jeff, do you want to fight on this show? And I think it was the very first Cage Warriors show in the world, right?
And what year are we talking here?
I'd have to look.
Roughly.
2000.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's early.
Yeah.
Okay.
2000 maybe.
So Cage Warriors 1.
I'd have to check. I'll have to check on my. It may have been 2003.
But we're still talking. You know,
it
gives a rough.
Go.
It gives a rough.
Yeah. I'm just trying to think. It was around that. Yeah. I can't get right on the date with that, but I can find it. And yeah, it was early, but back then, no one was a mixed martial artist. You did a bit of pads, you were either coming from a strong background and that was your background.
Yeah.
The first time I fought an actual proper mixed martial artist was Andre Winner. And he kicked my ass. I'd never been taken down. He picked me up and threw me like I was a rag doll, but that's another story. So, and then I just moved into my MMA from there. And I think that was probably around 2003, I'm thinking. Not 2003. I think all the amateur fights were 99 to into the 2000s, and then pro was like 2003.
So, on this journey, we've gone through that real quick, but you went from doing judo and some kickboxing to doing these, very early amateur, just on a mat MMA fights. Then, like you said, just saying, do you want to fight pro?
Yeah.
And what was going through your head when you were, were you thinking, I'm going to be a pro mixed martial artist?
No. Okay. Because it didn't exist.
Yeah.
Being a pro mixed martial, I just did some fights.
Yeah.
And then I went back to doing judo training the week after that. Do you know what I mean? That's how it was. It wasn't, you couldn't be.
Didn't exist.
No, you couldn't. Yeah. You couldn't. I mean, some of my first fights, we were getting 50 quid. We were putting our lives on the line for 50 quid. To a baying West Country crowd that just wanted to see blood.
Were there many people in these audiences?
Yeah, there were. Yeah, really? Loads. Yeah, loads. I used to go out when I was younger. I went out drinking, and then I ended up fighting in the same club that I used to go out drinking in. Do you know what I mean? It was like that. Your feet would stick to the carpets, and it was filthy. But I knew. Look, I'm a performer, Dan.
Yeah,
I am, and with my martial arts, that's how I'm performing, and I wanted to show my friends that I could fight, that I was tough and I could beat these people, and that's what I did. For the whole amount of time that I was, not the entire amount of time, but for the first few flights, definitely, yeah.
And then, I guess one of the interesting things about the time that because I've spoken to so many people that were competing in those early days, and one of the interesting things is because, like with most things, the explosion of MMA, it's going to explode more rapidly closer to the genesis of it, closer to the sort of big bang, so to speak, of MMA in the UK. It must have changed so much over the years that you were doing it.
Oh, completely. Because this is how I did it. I just literally did a couple of pad sessions maybe the week before an MMA fight, Dan.
No way.
Mate, I never had an MMA coach the entire time I was doing it.
So you're just training judo, and then you just do a couple of...
Yeah, and I used to do a little bit of, it wasn't called no-gi, we just did judo with our tops off. It wasn't. It's ridiculous. Gi bottoms on, but you'd never grab them. Never.
Yeah.
It was ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. When I look back at it now, it was the early days for this country. It was the early days. I think going back to Gary Turner did one of the first MMA fights in the country. I think or international ones. It was 1996.
Wow.
I think. Don't quote me on that, but I think it was 1996. Was some of the first ones over here.
Yeah.
Yeah, God.
So what were you doing for work whilst you were doing...
personal trainer.
Yeah.
Yeah, personal trainer. Yeah, that all happened about the same time. I went to work in multiple different gyms. And, yeah, and I was just teaching people how to fit. I was getting 1,000 sit-ups in a day, which I thought was great.
Yeah.
I didn't realise it was useless, but I was just doing them with my clients, and I kept fit and healthy, and I did lots of judo, and I was doing the odd pad session here and there. MMA sessions didn't exist.
Yeah.
No one was doing MMA. Ground and pound, we just lucky to land a few shots in the thing, but that sort of changed with the opponent. So as the opponents got better, so when Andre Winner kicked my ass.
Was that the first time you were beaten?
No, I lost on a cut. So I cut my eye because my eye's cut because I'm weak skinned. So I lost on a cut on a fight down here in Bournemouth. And that was my first loss, and I was gutted. I couldn't believe it. And then I thought, okay, I'm going to bounce back from this. And then I went up to London in Cage Contenders, which is where I fought Andre Winner.
Yeah.
I came in overweight, and terrible. I was a terrible athlete. Terrible.
Yeah.
I was. But what I was relying on is my judo, and it worked. My judo worked. If I got hold of people, I knew enough to win those fights. As soon as someone punched me, picked me up and dropped me on my head, I was in a completely different world. And that's what Andre Winner did to me. So from that moment on, then I was looked after a little bit by some people that I worked for in the gym, and but I never had any MMA instruction. I didn't have an MMA coach, proper MMA coach or instruction, until I went in the Ultimate Fighter.
Wow. And jiu-jitsu, when did that Brazilian jiu-jitsu come into the...
It was quite early on. Alex D'Souza is one of the first people to bring...
Yeah, he was, yeah.
And with Roberto Atala in North, they had that massive hour and 20-minute long MMA fight somewhere, didn't they?
Yeah, I read about that recently. I'm not sure if it was brought up again or I just looked into it recently. But I need to get one of those... I need to get Alex on to talk about that story.
Yeah. That's a great story.
It was a crazy whole
He's got
thing.
some really good stories, Alex.
Yeah, I definitely get Alex on.
Yeah. No, he's an interesting character, Alex. I've got a lot of respect for Alex. Alex gave me my black belt. I started my Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu with Alex, and he's got my respect completely,
So when did you start Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu?
I think around 2006. I started Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I was in and out supplementing my MMA training.
And that was just because you knew... Because coming from a judo background, I imagine that you thought, well, we do groundwork. We have submissions. We have grappling on the ground. Why do I need this other grappling thing? Was that the mindset, or was it...
No, not for me. It was me, Trevor Birmingham as well.
Yes.
Me and Trevor were always training partners, and we were going around, doing this, doing that, and the other. And I met Alex at one of the first cage fights I did, and he was there fighting as well. He couldn't speak a word of English at that time, and all he said was, come and train. So he was training in Eastleigh first, and we went to Eastleigh to train with him, and then we started coming to Bournemouth to train with him. And yeah. So, we did, the mindset was Alex was better than everybody else on the ground. So myself and Trevor, we could beat everyone at judo on the ground. We were, when we were doing the circuit, the coaches always from the edges, when we were fighting, go, don't go on the ground with those guys, don't go on the ground. And you could hear them shouting it, because me and Trevor were good on the ground.
Just purely through judo?
Purely through judo. But because my judo coach was so old, we hardly ever did any tachiwaza, so any standing work. So we were always on the ground. We'd have like one or two at the start, and he'd go, right, go on the ground, let's go. So we were always doing groundwork, and we were keen, and we were innovating, and we were, we were doing stuff that normal judo guys weren't doing. And in our area anyway, they might have been doing it in little pockets and in other places, but yeah, so that's that. And we were looking for really good training partners, and Alex was an amazing spar. It's brilliant. Because no one else did the stuff that he was doing. He brought it over, and, we enjoyed it. It was really, really good, and sort of dipped in and out. And then when I moved to Bournemouth, I got a job in Bournemouth, and then I started training with him all the time.
Yeah. And then, you mentioned it before, which was the Ultimate Fighter. So talk me through that whole process. So this was the Ultimate Fighter, was it 5? 9.
No, I'm fighting 9.
Not 9, and that was the first UK versus USA one.
Yes.
Yeah. Which is a long time ago now. What year was that? Do you remember?
2009.
2009.
Yep.
So how did that? Because I've spoken to a few people who were on there. How did that come about?
For me,
yeah.
Okay, so I had a really good MMA record. I had a really, really good MMA record. I'd had 10 or 11 straight pro wins.
Wow.
Back to back. And my old manager, who manages used to manage one of the gyms in Bournemouth, my old manager, he put me in touch with a guy in Birmingham that he knew. It was old kickboxers, basically old kickboxers who were running the UFC scene for management in the UK.
Yeah.
You know, and he put me in touch, and they put my name forward, and they flew me out to Vegas for an interview. I was great in the interview, and they had me on, and they had me on the show, which is in the Wolf's Lair.
Yep.
Yeah, I went to the Wolf's Lair, and I won my fight. That was it, with a throw and an armbar.
So that wasn't the fight to get in. That was the fight to get in the house.
That was the fight to get in the house. So
they had that. They had that in the UK.
They had that in the UK.
Really? So all of so there would have been
16.
There were 16 people,
Yep.
and they all fought, and then 8 of them went in.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's mental.
And what was that whole experience like? Because that was still sort of in the, I didn't even say like the glory days of The Ultimate Fighter. The Ultimate Fighter was, you know, some people who are newer to the sport may look at The Ultimate Fighter as something that The Ultimate Fighter is kind of on the way out. You know, it is
now, isn't it? Yeah.
You know, we're in the 20s or 30s or something. You know, there's been so many, and they've had in Brazilian versions and other versions. And the UFC is at a point now where it doesn't, there isn't any logical need for The Ultimate Fighter as a platform for up and comers to get into the UFC, because the UFC have so many fighters on their roster. But people may not realize that The Ultimate Fighter, especially The Ultimate Fighter 1, is credited as being one of the, if not the biggest turning point for the sport.
Yeah, completely.
Of all time,
Yeah.
you know, and they always talk about that match between Forrest Griffin and Stephen Bonner.
Yeah.
That was sort of the match that changed MMA and changed the UFC, and that it was, you know, they started with X million of people watching, and it almost doubled afterwards. And like people were halfway through the fight calling their buddies and saying, turn on whatever channel it was, Fox or whatever, and check out this fight. And it just did so much for the sport. Yeah. So those early Ultimate Fighter shows, and even, you know, the number 9 is still very early. They were massive. They were really, really big things, and that must have been. I know for the other guys that I've spoken to who were part of the show, you know, it must have been a really wild experience.
Man, I'm so privileged to have been part of that. It was just unbelievable. When I look back at how it was, I mean, we'd get a huge bag of tap out gear every day.
Really?
A bag of tap out gear. You know, we met all 3 of the tap out guys, and you know, to be in the same place as Dan Henderson and Mike Bisping.
Yeah, of course.
Man, it was unreal. Unreal. And, you know, they're both absolute legends. And with all the guys, it was fantastic. There were a few guys that were, you know, thrown up in the sinks and pissing on beds and stuff like that, but they were just doing that for the cameras. You know, we were some serious guys. It wasn't the funniest season by far. I mean, the season before with Junie Browning in, you know, he was causing chaos, causing mayhem. But I think the British people liked, the British MMA fans really liked, you know, when we were on it, and we were good. And man, I've made some people that I can, you know, they're friends. I can't call on them all the time. Do you know what I mean? But most of them I could message and they'd get back. And you know, for people who got as far as Ross Pearson and you know, like James Wilkes, and I mean Dean Amasinga's head of UFC in Shanghai. Do you know what I mean? The sports program in Shanghai. I can speak to those guys. If I need to speak to those guys, they'd message me back. And that's a nice thing, you know, because in this world where you know, people just get famous and, you know, you can't ever speak to them, Dan. I can still speak to those guys, and I love that. I really like that, because that shows that, you know, you've made a real bond with people there, which is lovely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I can only imagine what sort of a surreal experience it must have been to live isolated. Because as far as I'm aware, and correct me if I'm wrong, you didn't have any phones?
Nope.
Not that, I'm trying to think whether in 2009
Oh, we had them.
Smartphones were around, I think that just about. Like you had no phones, like no contact with the outside world. You couldn't leave the house, could you?
No, we couldn't
that's
leave
like
the house.
the concept. And how long was it?
We were away. I'm sure. Don't quote me, but we were away for about 10 weeks.
It's such a insane prospect, isn't it? And not only that, is you're away with just guys in a house. You're fighting half of them.
Yep.
You know, everyone's sort of like the testosterone must have been through the roof. You know, it must have been.
Yeah.
You know, what an insane environment to be in.
Totally
that is
surreal.
almost. That is completely that you'll never ever come across outside of that exact thing. Being in the Ultimate Fighter house.
Yeah. It's really cool. It was fantastic. You know, there were times when we were homesick, lots of us were homesick, and there were times when we were all at each other's throats, and there were times and the majority of the time we were just having fun.
Really?
We were literally just having fun. I mean, there were times when we were going a bit stir crazy, you know, towards the end. Man, that was hard towards the end. You know, when people were losing fights and they were out of the competition, and to try and stay motivated and help these guys train and stuff. I mean, we had the training, and that was probably what kept us going. Yeah. You know, I know in the early Ultimate Fighters used to go home, didn't you? You lose your fight, that was it, you were gone.
Yeah, but it was, I think they changed that because the house would be so empty and you'd have no one to train with.
Yeah.
But then they have the problem of people losing fights and then just tearing the house to pieces because they were drunk all the time.
Yeah, completely, yeah. I mean, we didn't do hardly anything like that, but we just had fun. Dan, some of the characters we had in there, man, like Dave Faulkner was...
Yeah.
Oh, man, he was so funny. It was so funny. It was just hilarious.
But also, you know, that must be something that's a bit crazy, which is to lose a fight, you know, to lose any fight. Fighting in general is a very emotional experience.
Oh.
And, you know, I've never competed in MMA, but even when I compete in a grappling show, especially in a big grappling show, you get a real come down, even when you win. You know, I don't know if you experience the same, but it's such a crazy emotional roller coaster.
Where you finish, you have all the fun and have all the, you know, the happiness.
Yeah.
And then you go,
and then you wake up the next day, you know, and actually some of the best victories produce some of the sort of harshest downs afterwards. You know, I remember when I did quintet, and you know, you just like the greatest day of my life, basically. Man, yeah. You know, it was just crazy, and we won it, and I remember it was unbelievable. And then you wake up the next day, and you just put your trousers on one leg at a time, and after all of that madness, the next day is always just like a little bit. You know, you just want to go home and just like get in the bath and just like relax and do nothing. And then I can't imagine what it would be like to lose a fight in the Ultimate Fighter house and not be able to leave that fighting environment.
Yeah. You had a lot of support. We had a lot of support, though. So the boys that were there, they were...
Maybe that's the difference. Maybe it's the fact that you're all in it together.
Yeah. I mean, because we were taken out of our country, we were a close-knit team, whereas, say, the Americans probably weren't. Yeah. They weren't as close-knit as we were. We were brothers in there. We were close. We supported each other. We spoke to each other. We helped each other. And that was the difference. You know, it really was. And when I lost, I looked at it as I've got this to work on, because I still wanted to be the professional mixed martial artist, which I was for a bit. But I looked at it as I've got stuff to work on.
Yeah. So, your career post The Ultimate Fighter, how much of a difference did being on that show make to your professional MMA career?
My professional MMA career after that, I had back-to-back losses. So I went to Denmark, got knocked out by probably one of the strongest, best strikers I've ever fought. I've never been knocked out before. Wow. He was amazing. He was so good. I'm sure he was Cage Warriors world champ. Anyway, he knocked me out round 2. And then I went to Japan. I lost a shock and awe title fight. Then I looked for the title. I've never held an MMA title. So I lost that, and I lost the next one in Denmark, I think. And then I went on Bama, and I fought Dave Lee on Bama, and I had an amazing fight on there. I won that. That got me through new management and a really good manager, Wad Alameddin, was amazing. He got me a fight in Japan. Wow. And man, that was unreal.
What is it like for you to fight in Japan? Were you someone who, because for me personally, the dream was always to compete in Japan. I just feel like that's the birthplace of jiu-jitsu. Was that the, and I guess that must be tenfold for you because, you know, obviously Brazilian jiu-jitsu came from Japan to Brazil, changed a bit and kind of filtered down to me. Whereas your introduction to martial arts was through judo, which is almost the national sport of Japan. What was it like finding out that you were going to compete in Japan?
That was, again, I've been so fortunate, Dan, on my mixed martial arts career, to get to these places. And Japan was the, you know, it was on a par with being in the Ultimate Fighter. It didn't do as much for me as what the Ultimate Fighter did, but it was amazing. It was just,
as a personal thing.
Oh, personal thing. It was just unreal, you know. And the show was just amazing. Me and my family did a trip to Japan a few years ago, and we went back to where I fought, which is the massive sumo stadium.
Do you know which one it was?
Ryogokukan.
Because that's what we had. A quintet one was at a massive sumo center. I'm not sure if it was the same one.
To find out.
All I remember is that the bathrooms, the toilet was
they're massive. Did you see the bath in the corner?
Yeah, the bath in the corner. It might have been the same place. So they had like the big wooden pole that they would like practice their palm strikes on.
But they had all of that, and we were in the stables, and they bought us Japanese food. We had about 6 boxes each of this Japanese food that we could pick, and oh man, it was just the best experience. But it was a 4-day experience. So that I flew out, got there day 1, day 2 weight cutting, weigh in and press day 3 fight, day 4 go home. Wow. Basically. So I was walking around Tokyo like a corpse, you know, because the weight cutting in MMA is just ridiculous. So, you know,
did you have to cut a lot of weight?
Yeah, I always did.
Light or feather?
Feather.
Yeah.
After the Ultimate Fighter, I sorted myself out and I cut down to 65. I weighed in at 64 kilos for that fight. Yeah, man, it's tough. I don't miss the weight cuts or anything like that, but sometimes I do miss the scraps. Sometimes, yeah. But Japan was amazing. Don't get me wrong. It was, you know, 4 days. It was fantastic, and I wanted to go back there, show my family, and yeah, it was just lovely.
What was it like revisiting it?
Oh, it's just the best. It's just, you know, I could actually take it in and see
you could enjoy it this time.
But we went with Matt.
Okay.
Matt was there, and we saw him on the last couple of days, and yeah, it was really nice. It was really, really good. So we had such a good time there. Yeah, it's a great country.
Yeah, Japan's cool. I need to get back there. You know, one thing about your definitely your grappling and also your MMA is you're a very dynamic, exciting fighter. Even now, when you know, in the recent years when you've done grappling events, always really dynamic. Is that something that comes natural because of the judo background that you have, or is that something that you have actually intentionally tried to cultivate in your style to be exciting? Because you mentioned something earlier which I found interesting, which is you consider yourself a performer, and that just your outlet of performing is to fight, or be it compete in grappling or fight in an MMA fight. Did you feel like entertainment was the priority?
Now, there was a fine line because for my Polaris matches, I go out there to entertain. You know, Matt's a good friend of mine, and I don't want to go out there and sit in half guard the entire match trying to pass. No. Dan, I'm kill or be killed, you know, and I will do that not in a conservative way. You know, I will try to throw you over my head. You know, I'll try and stomach throw, or, you know, I will try and do something that I know the crowd will love. That energy that you get from the crowd, Dan, and you'll know this as well.
Yeah.
That energy you get from the crowd. If you can't hear anything in the crowd, you're like, in the back of your mind, it's like, oh, here we go. Come on, I've got to get a sweep at least, or something like that.
Yeah.
If you do something and the crowd go, whoa, like that, it just fires you on to do more. And that's what it feels for me anyway.
Yeah, 100%.
And, you know, I've got, like you say, I've got this dynamic sort of style that doesn't work for everyone, that not everybody can do. And it works for me. And it's, even in my MMA, you know, I was doing scissors to heel hook positions. God, back when the filming was just done on a video camera. Do you know what I mean? I've always enjoyed the high amplitude throws. I've always enjoyed that. That was never my thing in judo. It wasn't. It was groundwork, which is weird.
But it's like you take someone who's not a very good thrower in judo and you put him in with MMA and jiu-jitsu and he's the best thrower in the room.
Yeah. It's just, that's just how it works for me. And Dan, do you know what, mate? I enjoy doing that. Yeah. I enjoy doing that. I don't want to eke a little win through points or anything. That for me, that's not me. And I can't do that. I enjoy showing off. I enjoy performing, and I want to showcase what I can do. You know, that's what I want to do. And that's what I did with my MMA, some of the early fights, and towards the end of my career, I did that as well. And Dan, you just got to enjoy it. And that flamboyancy, I enjoy doing. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you talk about Polaris and doing your, getting a crowd reaction. You have one of the most viral jiu-jitsu matches of all time. Like, legitimately. The number of times, and I'm sure you've seen it even more, but the number of times that will pop up a couple of times a year, your match on Polaris, where you get the big throw into the armbar. Yeah. That must be... Is that one of your favourite performances, if not favourite performance?
Well, it has to be, doesn't it? It has to be. But I enjoyed the fight more that I did with Andy Roberts.
That was an awesome fight. I commentated on that, and that was... And you know what you're saying with the crowd is absolutely true, that the amount of energy that crowd going crazy gives you is just... It's unquantifiable. If you could bottle that up, you'd have all the money in the world. It does. Yeah. And I remember watching that fight, and it was just what a match that was. But yeah, that first one, against Paul Bridges, that I've seen that throw to armbar so many times, like millions. People post it, and it gets millions of views every time.
Yeah.
That must be pretty
unfortunate with that.
Pretty great.
Yeah, it is good. But do you know what? It just worked perfectly, Dan. In that one specific time, I went to the Euros and I tried to do the same thing. I threw the guy, but he ended up on my back, and it just worked perfectly at that moment in time. And that's something that I drilled as a kid.
Really?
I drilled that as a kid. It was because I'm not left-handed, but there was a left-handed throw.
Yeah.
And I did all my judo left-handed when I was younger to try and win more fights, basically, because a lefty's a little bit more awkward to deal with.
Like equivalent to a southpaw in boxing.
Yeah. But especially for judo matches as well, because the right versus right works well. They've got that lead leg to attack with their weaker leg, so they can, they've got their balance on their back leg, their strong leg. Whereas the other way round, it just works in a lefty's favour, really, which is, I don't know how that works, but it does. Anyway, at that one particular moment in time, that throw came off beautifully, you know, and it's done great. It's done great for me.
I love the idea of like this video of the training for that fight or that match that started when you were 8 years old. Throwing left-handed, this 8-year-old throwing, doing that over-the-shoulder throw and leading up to actually doing it on stage at Polaris. Yeah, that is like what an iconic moment that is in Polaris history.
It's
And
a beautiful throw, though.
it's a good throw.
You know, as a throw.
Yeah, it's a good
You
throw.
know, not just that particular version of it. Is
I don't think I've ever thrown anyone in it ever. I need to get you to teach me how to do that shit sometime.
I could, Dan. I could teach you how to do that. I could.
So, at what point do you go from competing in MMA and working as a personal trainer to becoming an instructor?
So I started teaching like pad work to people when I was a personal trainer, so around 2000, 2001. And then I started doing a little class, fitnessy sort of boxing sort of class. And then at the same time, I was obviously doing judo all the time, and then I started MMA. But then I suppose I did a show. I went on a show, and one of the guys, the promoters of the show, asked me to come and teach. And I went to teach my version of MMA, which is very, very different from everybody else's version of MMA. And over the years, that eventually turned into my own club, and I've produced some, with help of other people, produced some really good fighters, you know.
And because I know a couple of days ago you had a big day at your gym.
Oh yeah.
Where you promoted 4
It was 4
students to black belt.
Yeah. So that's been a long time coming. It's good. Technically, I'm not allowed to do it because I've only got 1 stripe on my black belt.
Sure.
But the beauty of lockdown as well is that lots of people have given permission and on behalf of, and our group master Yuki Nakai, absolute MMA legend, he's fantastic to work with. You know, he's, you know, Dan, I've nearly been in this November, I would have been a black belt for 9 years.
But you're only 1 stripe?
I'm only 1 stripe. yeah.
How comes?
Because I left Alex. Yeah, because when I was I could put them on myself, I suppose, but I know people that have. Yeah. But that's it. Yeah. So anyway, you know, regardless of that, well, you know, if anyone did say anything, I've been a black belt long enough. I understand and I know when people need promoting and when they've done their time and the different attributes that each person brings to the different attributes that jiu-jitsu brings to those people's lives and how they translate it for other people and help and you know how good they are at it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. You need to. We'll talk about that whole stripe thing afterwards because you should be 3 stripes if you've been for 9 years.
It's almost 9 years. Yeah, November.
Then you should almost be 3 stripes. You're gonna need Yuki's gonna have to kind of grade you retrospectively, I think, because you have a really successful and a very well regarded gym at Ippon Dojo.
Yes, Ippon Gym. Ippon Gym.
How does that sort of... I always feel, because it's such a natural transition between identifying as a competitor to identifying as a coach.
Yeah.
And I know that it doesn't happen immediately. It's not, you know, yesterday you were a competitor and today you're a coach. But it kind of becomes more and more and one side becomes less and less.
Yeah.
How did you feel like that? Were there any... You know, were there any big moments where you felt like you were becoming less of a competitor and more of a coach? You know, do you still consider yourself a competitor or do you consider yourself a coach entirely now?
Competitor until I die.
Is that it? It's just that's just who you are.
Well, no, that's just what people think, isn't it? That's what people, you know.
I think some people do and some people don't. You know,
I always think that I can still do it.
But you've also competed in the last couple of years, and you proved that you can absolutely still do it.
Yeah, I still want to have I still would love to get a medal. I've got to go there though to start with, but I'd love to have a medal I want to win the Euros.
Yeah.
I'd like to get a medal in the Worlds, and I know I'm more than capable of doing that. So I'd like to do that. But my body isn't what it was at all. Both my elbows, the nerves slip out of the groove on my elbows. So sometimes have you ever had that?
No, thankfully
so you've got
not.
a radial nerve that goes through there, and it goes through a little channel on your elbow, and it will just come out. I can put it back in, but it slips out of the groove, basically.
Putting your own nerve back in sounds like a painful experience.
It just literally just go like that. And it pops back in. Anyway, so my elbows do that from time to time. From holding pads, I think that's from holding pads, and you spring too hard.
Yeah.
Some days I wake up. Well, there you go. Some days I wake up and I can't touch my shoulders.
Yeah.
So it takes its toll. Like I say, I'll always consider myself to be able to compete and hold it with guys my age that have done similar sorts of things. I'm no dreamer. Some of the purple belts at the gym kick my ass. Purple belt's the new black, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, yeah, 100%.
Man, they're unreal. So, so I'm realistic. And, even though I'd like to have an MMA fight again.
Would you?
I'd love to.
When was the last time?
It's not going to happen. 2013 or 14, I think.
Okay, so we're talking 7 years ago.
Yeah. It would never happen. It would have to be again. No, I just don't want to get head trauma.
Yeah.
But I want to dish it out. No, but it's just, no, I won't do it.
How old do you say you were, Jeff?
I'm 42.
42.
I'll be 43 in August. Yeah, so.
So maybe if you found someone else your age who wanted to throw down.
Yeah. Brad Pickett had a great idea of we were in the change rooms one time, and we were all warming up for something, and Brad Pickett said he's going to organise an event called Age Rage just for veterans. But yeah, no one would ever get insured for that anyway, would they? Thing.
I don't know, I've seen worse.
Yeah, probably. Back in the early days it was worse.
Yeah.
But as much, Dan, that's the mentality. I'd love to still think that I can do that, and I'd love to still think that I could fight an MMA match. I probably could fight an MMA match, but I think it would come at quite a bit of a cost, health-wise and stuff like. Because I wouldn't diet for it, I'm nearly 84 kilos at the moment, so I'd probably come in at about 79, 80, just from getting fit again.
Yeah.
And some of those guys, if I fight someone who's good at weight cutting, man, he's going to be a monster. Anyway. I can still compete in jiu-jitsu whenever I want to, really.
Yeah. And is that still a big priority to you then?
It's not a priority. It's fun.
Yeah.
My priority now is... my main priority now is to get the teenagers at the gym the teenagers, is to turn those teenagers that have been with me for 10 years into very proficient adult jiu-jitsu players. That's my priority now. It's working with those. I've got a handful of kids that have been with me since they were, I started those classes for my son when he was 4. He's 14 now. So, that is a big thing for me. I just, when I handed out my black belts the other day, one of them was two of them were homegrown.
Wow.
A lot of them have come from other teams, and which happens.
Very common, yeah.
But two of them were homegrown, and that's a big achievement, Dan.
It is.
For me,
It is for anyone, because you're right. Actually, when you think of people in your gym, if everyone who trains thinks of a few people, whatever, high grades, browns or black belts, or even some purple belts, guys that you consider to be, or guys or girls that you consider to be as much as your team as anyone else, but actually you think, did they start? Was their first day of jiu-jitsu at your gym? Most people have started elsewhere, trained for a few months, moved gyms, maybe got their blue belt, moved gyms again. Very few people actually, actually stay with one gym from white to black belt. It doesn't happen as often as you may think. So yeah, it is a big achievement.
Yeah.
And, talking about interesting that you mentioned your priority is getting those kids and teenagers up to sort of adult level. You've been teaching for 10 years then?
Yeah.
And at that age group, I find it such an interesting sort of puzzle with taking kids from early puberty through their teens into adult and retaining them. I've been teaching for a long time, but I've never really taught kids on any sort of serious level. So it's never been something that, even though I have my opinions on it, I've always taught adults. So it's never really been of much concern, a practical concern. It's never been something that I have hands-on experience with. Do you find that I feel like so few of those early teenagers actually manage to transition through? There's like a barrier at like 16, 17, 18 that that kids hit and they end up quitting jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
Have you found that to be true?
At the moment, no. Only because I've only had 3 do it so far. So I've got 3 blue belts.
Yeah.
I've got Macy, Jet, who you know.
Yeah, very good.
And Jack. Now, Jet's, really performing well. You know, Jet, he's a very, very good competitor. The other guys, we all did it at the same time. So I promoted them up to their blue belts at the same time. And I'm still working with them all at the moment. But with the teenagers, Dan, I was in a judo club with, we must have had 30 or 40 teenagers on the mat, right? It was big, it was going. I'm the only one now still doing it. I'm the only one who still, kept going, because there was 2 guys with me, Trevor Birmingham and Jamie Newbury, and they were like old friends, but they're about 5 or 6 years older than me, so I don't include those in there. They're still doing it. But none of the other teenagers that I started with, not one of them, they didn't make it through those teenage years. They just didn't. They got to 15, they start drinking, smoking, having sex.
That seems to be the wall that people hit at that age, and it seems so. And I don't know, and it's going to be, I'm sure, many years of me changing my mind about how to best try and deal with that scenario, but transitioning from children to adults without leaving the sport seems to be such a difficult task.
Yeah. And I wouldn't put too much fault in it.
I think it's a natural thing. Yeah.
It is totally natural. I could probably say I've got 6 or 7, Dan, 7 kids that have started with me when they were very young, and they're yellow belts, orange belts, coming up to green belt.
Yeah.
That sort of stage. And man, sure, Dan, I'm going to lose half of them.
Yeah.
I don't want to, but that's the natural thing. That's what's going to happen. That is going to happen.
It must be difficult, knowing that you're going to put a lot of work into these kids who may leave the sport.
But if you think about it like that pyramid thing, like your sparring partners, Dan, all the sparring partners that you've had
has led you to that point.
Made you. It's helped make you, right? So that's what I'm doing with the kids now. My kids, I've changed my program completely. I've gone back to the old sort of judo method where the kids fight for their grades. They don't just turn up.
Really?
I've completely gone away from the IBJJF stuff. They've changed it again. They changed the grades. Some of the
kids' grades?
The kids' grades. Yeah. It's like you get 4 white stripes, 4 red stripes, and a couple of yellow stripes. You just can't keep up with it, man. So my kids, they get 3 stripes on their belts. They fight for that, and they demo for me as well, right? So they're going to show me how to escape mount 3 different ways, or they're going to show me a flowing drill.
This is for all under 16.
This is for all of my under 16s. And do you know what? I can do what I want. No one cares. They don't. As long as they're there or thereabouts, because I don't think they have like a green belt category or an orange belt category. They used to. Now it goes on years training. I think. Well, at least it did before lockdown. So whether my kids, Dan, they compete or not, you're bringing jiu-jitsu into their lives, and you're making their lives better through jiu-jitsu. And if I get to put a blue belt on a handful of them, Dan, I've done my fucking job, mate. and that's it. You know, if one of them goes through and one day they're a black belt,
it's all worth it.
That's it, isn't it? That is it. That is it.
Yeah.
You can't get any better than that. I don't think, as an instructor, you know, as a competitor, you go to the world championships, you win the world championships, you fight in quintet, and you're the quintet champions. You know, that's mate, that's the pinnacle on one side of the jiu-jitsu story. On the other side is you have a kid that started when they're 4, and they move through all of their grades, and they end up having a black belt. And God, if they end up having their own academy and teaching, that's the other side of it, man.
It's almost like being a parent, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like your job as a parent. If you put another side of your personality aside, your job as a parent is to raise your child up as a good human to the age where then they can do the same if they wish to do that.
Yeah.
An
aspect. That's an aspect.
Yeah, an aspect of it.
Because you can send those kids home after class. See ya. Yeah. No, but it's good because I think that the kids now, the teenagers, jiu-jitsu's on their mind, whereas when they're really young, there's a handful of kids when they're really young, and I've got a few at the moment that are 6, 7, and 8. They live and breathe jiu-jitsu. They cannot wait to get back at the gym. And that will come and go, Dan. That will, come and go. But when they get to teenagers, if they're thinking about it all the time when they're teenagers, that's when you know that they're going to move into the adults. Yeah, they're going to move into the blue belts and the purple belts and stuff like that. I mean, some of my kids now, my son is one of them. He could be one of the kids that goes through to, because you can bypass blue and go, I mean, he's done 10 years. Yeah. He's done 10 years as an adult. They're a black belt almost.
Yeah. It's true.
Yeah.
It is. That is one of the funny things about these kid grades is you can train for 12 years and then be given a blue belt when you turn 16.
Yeah. It's mental. It's mental. But some of them, that's where they are.
Yeah.
And I mean,
you can't count 10 years from the ages of 20 to 30 as you would from the ages of 4 to 14.
No.
It doesn't work
it's totally different. I mean, the first few years of when you're 4, it's just games. It's just like piggybacks and stuff like that,
And it's really, really interesting that you're getting the kids to compete for belts now. Is that something that you're employing in the adults classes as well?
No, but you know what? They should.
Yeah. Because talk us through... I know vaguely the rule set, and we've spoken about it in the past. I think probably back in like episode 3 with Simon Hayes, maybe we spoke about it. I can't even remember if we did. But how does judo gradings work when you have to compete for belts?
Now I don't know.
Yeah.
Because I think they've taken more of a jiu-jitsu approach as well. You can do it without fighting. When I was doing it, Dan, right, we had 3 stripes, then we change a belt. It might have even been 2. I don't know. 2 stripes, then change a belt. I had to, for my coach, I had a little license. I had a set thing of moves. I had to show him Taitoshi, Kezugatami, Munigatami, and escape. Right? These are all just normal positional things. And show him how to escape that. And he would tick it off and he'd get his stamp out and he'd stamp it. And that showed that I was ready for the next stripe, which are called Mons. So that stripe. So then I'd have to wait till the end of the month. And this was every 3 months. I'd have to wait till the end of the month to go to a grading. Now, a grading was organised by, let's say the British Judo Association, Hampshire Committee. So I'd go, and all the clubs from Hampshire, some of them from Surrey, some of them from Kent, would come to this grading, and you'd be put in height order, and you'd go, right, you two, let's go. So you could be fighting, a kid just your size, or he's a little bit older than you, he's a bit stronger than you, or, anyone who was about your size. And you go out there, and you win that fight, but you had to win it decisively. You couldn't win by...
advantage, or what the equivalent is.
They were like, that doesn't count. You got to win that, and you got to win it properly. So you had to win 2 fights for 1 stripe. That's how we did it, and that's similar to what I'm going to do now with the kids. And I'm going to try and get all of my other academies in Parashtra UK, I'm going to try and get them to do it as well. So we've got quite a few guys in the country now, only down here, not in the country, just down here. And there's lots of kids, and the reason I've done it is because, number one, the IBJF keep changing how many tabs they're doing for this, how many tabs they're doing for that with the kids. I want my kids to learn to lose, and I want them to know what it's like to fight for something, have it just in reach, and lose it.
Yeah.
And then, Dan, if they lose and they go crying to mum, oh, I don't want to do it anymore, I can't win. And mum goes, oh yeah, well done, you know, you had a bad day. It's all about they lose, they reach, they lose, they reach further next time, and they lose again. That's how you incrementally get better. You reach, you lose it, you reach further next time. And I believe that's how you make someone better. Obviously with the coaching and the teaching and the training, the techniques, all of that's all part of it. If they can't apply it, you know, I'll work with them until they can apply it, or you're going to lose them. So I've put myself out on a limb. I put my neck out on a limb and gone, you know, I'm going to lose some of these kids. I am going to lose some of these kids. I've got about 60 kids at the gym, and I'm going to lose some. With this system, I'm going to lose them. They're not turning up every single time going, oh, have I done I've done enough to get my stripe? I haven't got parents asking me, oh, when are they doing stripes? When are you getting this? When are you getting that? They're going to fight for it. The parents can watch. They can see them win. They can see that they're good enough for that. It's plain and simple.
Wow.
Yeah. That's what I'm going to do. Some people won't agree with it. They won't.
I think the people who are serious about this sport, I don't know anyone who would disagree with it. I think that making something harder is never a bad thing. Within reason. Making, like, things don't need to be easy. When you make something easy, you devalue it. And when you make something difficult and you make something really hard, you add value to that.
Yeah.
And, you know, you are right. Sometimes you'll lose a few people to maintain the quality that you're looking for. It's interesting. How long have you been doing this for with your kids?
Since I come back from lockdown.
So
April 17th.
So we're talking...
So fresh. But I've had time to think about it.
This is something that I am really interested in, how this works out for you. And is it something that you would consider doing with the adults?
Dan, this comes down to curriculum.
Yeah.
And as you know, as well as I know, that having a curriculum for adults in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is next to impossible, isn't it? Where do you go from white belt? You get the fundamentals in white belt, which is a list of, right? Probably at blue belt, you could probably do the same. Right? I know Roy Dean's done some excellent DVDs of requirements.
Yeah.
But my requirements for all of those grades would be very different from your requirements. Oh, yeah, we'd have the mount escape, we'd have the shrimp, we'd have an armbar for mount and cross collar choke for mount and things like that. Single leg takedown, double leg takedown. We'd have all of those things. But then it goes to, oh, let's do De La Riva. Let's do spider guard. Let's have, you know, so many. Do we do a front headlock series, or do we just go straight into footlocks? It's endless. I think a curriculum for an adult in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu...
Too vast.
It's just vast. So what do you show me for your black belt, Dan? Do you show me your fantastic use of De La Riva? Do you show me how good you are at guillotines?
Yeah.
You know, do you show me how you can pass that knowledge on to somebody else who's almost unteachable?
Yeah.
You get that guy doing it, you deserve it. You know, it's my perspective against your perspective. I know the Gracie Barra, they've got a whole curriculum and system, haven't they? I don't know how it works because I haven't seen it, but I've heard, you know, but that's their perspective. So everyone's got their own perspective. I don't know if Nick's got a curriculum that he follows for adults.
Not that I'm aware of. No.
But I don't think many people have.
Yeah.
And people are trying to do it. I've been trying to write a syllabus.
Really?
For 5 years. It's never ending, Dan.
Yeah.
It's never ending. It's like putting my bloody hair out.
Just when you think you're done, you've already got 100 more techniques to add.
But you can do it for kids, and I'm almost there. I'm almost there with a really comprehensive curriculum for children. Because all the children need are the basics. That's all they need, and how they apply them in each belt. Yes, white belt is quite a big belt, and white and grey is quite a big belt, but the next few steps, I'd be interested if anyone messages me from listening to this podcast if they have an actual solid curriculum for children, because I'd like to see it. It's
absolutely cool. That is an open invitation to anyone listening or watching the podcast is if you have a curriculum for kids or for adults, send Jeff a message.
Send it to him. Well, we could talk about it. I think it's hard.
It's an interesting topic, and sort of what you're talking about, it makes sense. It makes sense that you can't have, like, geez, what do you put in a black belt curriculum, what do you put in a brown belt curriculum? It is almost endless. But then what about white to blue?
That's easy. White to blue is easy.
White to blue, so do you do a curriculum from white to blue?
Yeah.
Do you, when you grade someone to blue belt, do you make them show you X amount of techniques? Or does the requirement for each belt completely change? For example, white to blue belt, you need to learn the basics from a technical standpoint.
Yeah.
From blue to purple, you need to be able to show a certain number of understanding of techniques, and also the ability to maybe use those techniques practically. Then a brown belt, you need to start being able to show the ability to teach, and then whatever it is. Even the concept of just like we were saying before, when something's difficult, it makes it more valuable. When you say that it's so difficult to write a syllabus for adults, it almost makes it even more tantalizing, doesn't it?
Oh, completely. And I'm not going to stop trying.
Yeah, and exactly. And the idea of how do you make that work, and how do you that systemizing something that is almost untangible, like the vast emptiness that is the universe of grappling.
You could go away today, and there are lots and lots of black belts, really great teachers in the country that could do this. They could go away and they could write the requirements, what you'd need, what they think they need. But then is that their perspective? And then their students will do that, and they'll be good at that, and that's great. But my students might not get that. Your students might not get that.
But isn't that true of that's true of giving grades out full stop, right? What I would consider a purple belt may be different from what someone else considers a purple belt.
There's no standardization.
You can only, so for example, I created my own grading system for no-gi.
Okay.
And I was using it. It was, I've spoken about it loads of times in the podcast in the past. Before I left in 2019 from teaching, obviously I've been teaching for 12 years before that, but only sort of 4 or 5 years, like full time, with a full program, 4 days a week. And that was allowed me for the first time to actually bring in a proper program and have it structured and do it how I wanted to do it. And I graded people no-gi, and the way that they'd use they'd show the grades is I had ankle bands, colored ankle bands.
Nice.
And it worked really well.
Yeah.
And I think, the idea that only people who train the gi should be allowed, there's not a single reason to wear a belt in the gi that doesn't also apply no gi. So whether that is you walk into a room as someone who is a white belt and someone offers you advice, and you look at their belt and it's a white belt as well, and you go, I'm going to take this advice with a pinch of salt. Or someone offers you advice and they're a brown belt, and you go, this guy's been training for a long time, he must know what he's talking about, I'm going to take this advice a little bit more seriously. Or be it for any of the other reasons that we wear belts. And I believe that all of those things are true to no-gi as well. And it's almost a little bit of, I think it's almost unfair, that people aren't shown the levels that they are no-gi, even though some people may see that as a benefit. But anyway, I started a no-gi system of grading. I used completely different colors, and I used a different number of belts, quote unquote, so you couldn't connect it to blue equals this.
Great.
All of that stuff.
Well, good idea.
And it worked really well.
Yeah.
It really did work well. Some people were really upset because they were purple belts or brown belts, and I gave them a white band or whatever, and they weren't too happy about it. But it was the way it was, and it allowed me to sort of standardize, have a certain level of structure throughout, because I had more than 50% of my class were only training no-gi. Whereas in most academies where you don't have a separate no-gi program, everyone who trains no-gi pretty much trains gi as well.
Yeah.
So you can go, he's a blue belt, he's just not wearing a belt today.
Yeah.
He's not wearing a gi.
Yeah.
In my class, I had people training with me for years and years and years who'd never put a gi on. So I felt like you have to give them something, right? But the bands that I gave them would mean nothing outside of my class.
Okay.
You know, so like that's all it is. You know, everything it only pertains to the reality that you create inside the four walls of your own gym. And what happens outside of that is, look, he is X level and he will roll with him and lose to him and beat him.
You know you're onto something there, right?
With the
that.
with the grading system?
Completely.
Yeah. Well, you know, I spoke about it on my podcast many years ago when I started it, and a few other gyms in the country had the same idea and got ankle bands as well. It works really well. You know, it's always been something that I've thought about, and because Eddie Bravo using coloured rash guards or coloured shorts doesn't work, because then you have a uniform, and I don't really like the idea of implementing a uniform. And you need, you know, you have someone who trains 4 days in a row, they need 2 or 3 pairs of the same thing. With a band, you can have 2 bands and you can train every day in the week. The band, you chuck it in the sink, wash it out with some soap, stick it on the radiator, it's dry by the next day. It worked
Was
really
it like
well.
a sweatband?
Sweatband, yeah.
Yeah, sweatband.
It was branded up, and it was, you know,
Sweet.
Yeah, it was cool.
That's such a good. You could take that national.
You know what? It's one of those things where, you know, I had one affiliate. I have one affiliate now, but I had a different affiliate before who was much closer by, and I graded some of his guys with my same system as well. But then he stopped teaching there, and I pulled the affiliation from that gym. But you know, that's one of those things where I'm I may have come up with it, but if you want to do that, crack on, go for it. Anyone can use that. I have no qualms with anyone using that system. But I just think it made sense and it worked. It did work, yeah.
Yeah.
But same with that. It only pertains to inside of my own gym.
But you could run with that, Dan. That's got the potential, just from what you've told me now, to be a national thing. Take, for example, what style of jiu-jitsu do you think could go into the Olympics? Let's take pluck it out of the air. It's not going to be in the gi, is it?
No.
So it sounds to me like you're at the very start, the very grassroots level of something that could potentially be a recognised thing.
Yeah.
It could be.
But at the same time, I'm not trying to make a new martial art, you know?
No, because it's already there. You don't need
It's
to
already
make a new
there,
martial art. It's just standardising it.
Yeah.
You know, and if it was standardised...
Yeah.
That's the whole thing that we're talking about is
yeah,
that.
it is true. And I feel...
You can run with that, man. There's money there, Dan.
Maybe.
There is.
Maybe. But
another thing is because it's you as well, and people look up to you, and you're a big name. You're known for the no-gi.
Yeah.
You could run with that, man. You could. I'm telling you now.
Maybe I will do. Maybe I will. Yeah. But yeah, I think the most important fact of it is that is to not have it directly relatable to the gi. Because then it's too easy for the go. Like, for example, my color system was white. See if I remember it now. It's a long time since I used it. It was white, yellow, green, red. There's four bands, opposed to the 5 of jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
So obviously you can make a comparison that red is being the highest, just like black is. But you can't say I'm a blue belt, therefore I'm a yellow band. Like, you can't say that because it doesn't perfectly correlate between the two. And I had to have that because I couldn't have someone come in with a blue belt saying, therefore I need a yellow band.
Yeah. No, that's a really good idea, Dan.
Cheers, mate.
Really, really good.
You can use it if you want, mate.
Yeah,
I won't charge you a penny.
I don't do a lot of no-gi at the gym, though. I don't, not anymore.
Yeah, really?
Not anymore. We've got three no-gi lessons. I am going to bring more in because it's so popular, but we specialise in the gi, Dan, you know, really. But we haven't got any no-gi children's lessons.
That's it. Do you know what? No-gi kids is an interesting thing. And I definitely, let's talk about that for a sec, because it seems that almost no one teaching kids jiu-jitsu teaches no-gi.
I don't know many.
And it's not like kids don't compete no-gi.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
So I'm sure that there are some classes, but you really don't hear and don't see of many scheduled no-gi only children's classes, do you?
No, I did try, but it didn't work. It was just didn't work for me. But
why is that?
do you know what? I have no idea. It was just numbers were low and
Really?
low and low and low. And I had 4 kids, whereas I get 20, 22, 24 kids a class in the gi.
So interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. I don't know what it is, but when you turn teens, I mean, my boy now, he's 14. He wants no gi. He wants to get on it. He loves the gi, but he wants to do no gi as well. And we just don't have that time and space.
It's interesting how you see. I'd love to do a big survey of from kids up until adults, as old as you get, comparing preference gi or no gi with the age. Because it's like the kids prefer the gi, then the teens prefer the no gi, and then and sort of it peaks and then it comes back down,
35.
and then you start to go back towards the gi.
Yeah.
Interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. I think it's because it's fast.
Yeah.
No gi is dynamic and fast. The gi, don't get me wrong, the gi can be dynamic and fast as well. But it's all down to friction, isn't it? So the more friction you've got, the less movement you've got, I think. Yeah. You want less friction. You want more friction as you get older. Excellent.
And that is the quote. That is the quote.
More friction as you get older. That's it. Slower. More friction equals slower. And you do, for longevity in the sport, you need it to be slower. You can't be whipping around, heel hooking everyone left, right, and centre, can you?
That's fair enough.
Yeah.
People keep on saying, I haven't trained in the. I would say that I have not trained gi since I got my black belt. So I've probably sparred less than 10 times in 7 years
in the gi.
Yeah. Not full stop.
No,
That'd be really bad.
Yeah, it'd be really bad.
That would not bode well for me for Polaris. So I've done that much. Everyone's just like, give it 10 more years, you'll be back in the. You'll come literally crawling back to the game.
Yeah. But that's the nice thing of jiu-jitsu. That's a nice passage of time in jiu-jitsu, I think. Yeah, that's quite nice. It's quite romantic, really, isn't it? That coming back to the gi and I like that. I like that idea. I like that idea.
Anyway, I know that we're pushed for time here because we are in the Scramble studio and they'll kick us out when they all want to go home. So I want to move on to something that we have spoken about before and I'm really interested in talking to you about, which is your journey, and I'm not sure how recent it is, with psychedelics.
Yeah.
So is this something that is... Well, I guess the first question is just like, when did you start jiu-jitsu? Which is, when did you first start experimenting, for lack of a better word, with psychedelics?
2014 was my first big psychedelic thing.
And what you're going?
Can I use a loo?
Yeah, of course, mate. Yeah, get yourself ready for this.
Yeah, I'll get ready for that.
Okay, we're back. So, it's 2014.
Yeah, 2014. So, as a kid, you go through and you try bits and pieces here and there and stuff like that. I can remember my friends having a quarter of an acid trip and stuff like that and giggling for all day. And there was one girl that did it at school and stuff. And, growing up.
Yeah.
And none of that really meant too much to me. And do you know what? This is a weird thing. It's a funny thing and it's a weird thing that I think I was here one day with the Scramble boys, and they were watching a video, and it was of these 2 loons with head torches on, blue light torches, going crazy in the jungle after taking ayahuasca.
Yeah.
So I watched it and I had a laugh with them because they were going crazy, and Matt and Ben were laughing, and I thought, what is that? And I looked into it a little bit more, and I thought, oh, that's just something, but it just kept nipping away at me. And in 2014 I organised a trip. It was only into Europe, and I did it, and it ayahuasca, and it was unreal. It was something I'd never felt, expected, or had before, and it sort of, the pull to it was strange. It was just I wanted to make myself a better person, basically. I didn't realise, but I'd been suffering from, I didn't know it, and it must be a sportsman's thing. It's a man thing. I think it was high functioning depression or something like that. Someone, you can suppress it, and then it just comes out. So I'd really struggled with it. I was getting nastier, and I was getting more bitter, and I was getting, I had 2 children, and family life I was finding family life really, really hard. And this was a cry for help, but not a big cry out. It was an internal cry for help. And, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I thought, well, I'm not having antidepressants. I'm not doing this and I'm not doing that. But I went and I did it, and that was the start of something really sort of special for me.
Wow.
Really, this is where we're going to lose most of the jiu-jitsu guys, by the way.
At this point, I feel like jiu-jitsu is so entwined with that sort of... most jiu-jitsu guys listen to enough Joe Rogan where...
Well, you know what? That's one of the other sort of ways in. That's the, when these guys were watching it, at the same time, I had a couple of friends that were doing MMA, and they mentioned about it. You've interviewed a couple of people who are also quite talkative about it.
Yeah.
And
I think Nick Gregoriadis and I think... did Nico Shipshack? Yeah, he was, wasn't he?
Yeah, and Nick was on the Ultimate Fight with me. So
yeah.
So it was mentioned. It was mentioned. So
the seed was planted.
And look, Dan, this is where I do get a little bit weird and stuff like that. And I believe that, number one, Dan, it's worked. It's made me a better person. I'm a nicer person. I'm not on medication for depression or anything like that. It's worked. It's helped me. It's done what it needed to do. But on a deeper level, I feel that every decision that I've made, every step that I've taken has been a journey up towards coming back to that as a human being, as a soul of this earth or whatever we're on. And I think that I was always destined to have that, always destined to take that, and always to have plant medicine as part of my life. And those of you that are listening that don't understand it so much, you don't have to understand it. It's not something that you really need to understand. It's the understanding comes in the taking, and that's how it did it for me. Now I can remember all of my journeys vividly,
really,
and so clear. And I'm, like I say, I'm a big believer, and I think that is. Do you know what, Dan? I believe, and I want to believe, that there is something after we die. Yeah. And ayahuasca, they call it the little death, and it kind of, nothing can prepare you for death, but we all know it's fucking coming, don't we? It's coming for every single one of us. And not that was the cause of my depression, it wasn't, but it certainly helps, and it certainly helps see things from a different perspective, rather than just I'm going to play football in the park on Sunday, I'm going to do my 9 to 5, I'm going to come home at the weekend, we're going to go to the pub, and I'm going to do my sport. And it adds an aspect, an element to this existence that we've got, that it's tough to get your head round. It's tough to get your head round, but fundamentally, if anyone's listening, it worked for me. It worked. It got me off depression, and it's made me nicer. I'm a lot more placid. It's not something you do. For me, I need it again. I need to do something again. I'm at a point. It's been a long time since I've been back there, but something is calling me again. I can feel it. The fact that we're having this podcast about it at this time
is a sign.
When I'm needing help from more than therapists, and from that,
And so have you done multiple ayahuasca trips?
I've done lots. Yeah, I've done lots.
Always ayahuasca?
I've done some psilocybin journeys as well. But the ayahuasca is, again, weird. Ayahuasca is like an angel, an angel messenger. Not in any religious form, you can feel it like an angel, whereas psilocybin is very earthy, very grounding, and it brings you down. It's a very feminine thing, the like the Mother Earth with psilocybin. Psilocybin is beautiful. And I microdosed. I relapsed with my depression, and I got it really bad, and I was crying a lot, and I couldn't make sense of this, couldn't make sense of that. And I hid it very well until breaking point, and then I went straight to the doctors. Of course, he chucked a load of pills at me. Of course, he did. So I had these pills, and it just makes you sort of. I don't know if you ever had antidepressive or anything like that. Any dealings with it? No. They put you on like that. So you're
no lows, but no highs.
Yeah, you're just sort of, and I felt that. So I took it in my own hands, and I microdosed magic mushrooms. And when I was supposed to take the tablet, I did a tiny amount of magic mushrooms.
Yeah.
And do you know what? They were 100 times better for me. Not for everybody else. They worked for me.
But they are talking about, I believe that they've decriminalized or legalized. There's many places that are legalizing psychedelic uses for research in treating antidepressant.
There are loads of clinical trials.
If you had said, even as recently as 5 years ago, if you had spoken about using psychedelics to treat depression, you would be looked at like you were crazy. But the reality is that it is being rapidly accepted by modern science that there is something in this that is incredibly effective at treating treating depression.
It's like night and day. It's brilliant. Really? Absolutely brilliant. I've done have a very good friend who's a counsellor, and I've done a guided psilocybin session with him, and they are just the best, because sometimes you need someone who can sit with you, Dan. Always you need someone who can just sort of deal with if you're flipping out, they can deal with that. They can add that calm and energy to it, or they can pull things out of you. So if you start talking about your kids, and they go, go to your children and feel what they're trying to say, or your grandfather's speaking. Oh, okay. What's he saying? And they can pull all of that stuff out of you. Someone who's experienced, and you can take psilocybin recreationally. It's lovely, but it also has a very deep, powerful, high dose
medicinal use.
They're just so good. I mean, they're the only ones I've done. I've done nothing else. I went straight in. My first psychedelic experience was an ayahuasca trip, which is the most powerful psychoactive brew on the planet. And after that, it opened lots of things for me, but caution, it can, like anything, it can mess with your mind, and it can send you backwards. You have to be mentally, prepared.
Yeah. And the first ayahuasca session that you did, was it with a shaman?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'd never do ayahuasca without a guide.
Yeah.
Never. It would always have to be with a guide. And
because ayahuasca, for those who don't know, ayahuasca, it's a DMT is the chemical essentially that is being the psychoactive compound, but the ayahuasca makes it last a very long time. It lasts hours, right? Yeah,
because of the MEO inhibitor that stops your body from breaking it down. The ayahuasca, I don't know if the ayahuasca vine that has the M monooxidase something, I can't remember now, MAO inhibitor, and it stops your body breaking down the DMT, which is in the leaves or sometimes the flowers that they put in there. So DMT 15 minutes tops, residual effects quite a long time after that. But well, with ayahuasca, I mean, my first one was about 8 hours, Dan. Deep.
8 hours of straight tripping.
Straight journeying. It was.
And is it even possible to try and explain what that experience was like?
Yeah, you can explain, but there's some things in there that you just cannot. You know, you cannot. I could not tell you. I could not explain to you in the depth of the colours and things that I've seen and why I saw them. Some things, Dan, you can't make sense. You just cannot make sense of it. And sometimes you get more questions than answers. Sometimes you do. But you know, you always get a good lesson. There's always something really, really good in there. And you know, these crazy people that go cold water dipping, like Wim Hof and stuff like that, he gets it that way, you know, and it's stepping out of your comfort zone. And psychedelics, at high dose, there's no comfort zone. You are obliterated, literally. I've had one trip where, you know, in this is my most recent one as well, which is a year and a half ago. In The Matrix, when he swallows the pill and the mirror comes over him. Well, I had that. It wasn't a mirror, but I laid on the bed, and normally what I get in a journey, and is my body fights to hold on to this earth. My body fights completely, and ayahuasca just gently separates it. Let's call it a soul for all means and purposes, spirit or soul. Ayahuasca just gently separates, just gently, just like peeling Velcro like that, but slowly. And that's how it does it. And my journey's become a fight. The first hour, 2 or 3 hours become a fight between this world and the next. And that's my body trying to hold on to everything that we deem as real and material, and your family and everything like that. And it just gently peels away your soul or your spirit or whatever. And it's frightening. It is frightening, and it's scary every single time. Apart from the last time I just let it go. And I really fully surrendered into that one. And it just felt like I was being covered by, it felt like stars. It felt like stars. It was just so fucked up. Do you know what I mean? But they said, because you get things talked to you, and it said, look, this is going to happen, whether you like it or not. Keep fighting. And we can't heal you. We've got to get inside you to heal you. And that was really clear in my last trip. And what they doing, what these entities do in there, or whatever it is, Dan, I can't explain that. I can't explain what they went inside me to do, whether that's just, and I'm quite real about it, it might just be my subconscious.
Yeah.
It might just be my creative mind, my subconscious, and it's a way for my body to really connect to my subconscious mind, which we've got there for a reason.
Yeah.
Yeah? So it might be just going, oh, you know, you were a dick to that person, or try and be a little bit nicer to your mum, or you know, maybe you should help a few more people rather than just helping yourself. Or one of the things, I did 3 classes of Jiu-Jitsu for children coming off the back of a trip, and it was clear to me to do that. It wasn't very good money-wise, but now I've got a really good thriving children's program.
That was something that you thought up afterwards, or you were told to do during the trip?
I've made lots of decisions, and they haven't all been good, of things that I've been shown in trips, you know.
So you can have one of these long trips and remember enough of your thoughts during it that you can keep that afterwards.
Yeah. But some people, my guides, when they have that, the shaman that I go to see, the guy, the elder, he doesn't try and remember anything. It doesn't try at all. He just says, what happens. It happens, and it's worked. I'm just going to go, and I'm going to go through my life and feel how things change in my life. It's a powerful helping tool. It really, really is. And I know that I'm still not done with it. I know that it's still working through me. It's not a day when I wake up, Dan, when I don't think about it. And that's a long time. It's been since 2014. But it has shaped my life in a good way. But Dan, I couldn't pick apart and go, oh, it made me do this better, it made me do that better. It's just, for some people, and I'm one of those people, they haven't got a very strong inner voice, let's say a strong inner voice. And it's sort of connected me to that, whereas I can now stop and think before I'm nasty to you. I can pick apart how I was that day myself without the use of psychedelics. They've helped me do that.
They've given you the tools.
They've given me the tools, and they've helped me connect to spirit more. Dan, if you told me this 2014, that you'd believe in a type of God, you'd believe in spiritualist stuff like that, I would have gone, fuck off, mate. It's just not that. But look, and I'm going to lose people on this, but it helped me with depression. It's given me a few beliefs that I didn't have before I started, and it's made me a better person.
And at the end of the day, that's all that matters, really, right?
It did what it needed to do for me.
Yeah,
and it's still doing it to me, but it really helps.
Yeah,
tremendously for me.
Yeah,
it's not for everyone.
Sure. No, it's a really interesting. It's always an interesting discussion with someone that everyone that I've ever spoken to who is into psychedelics or has used psychedelics properly has had really profound, life-changing, positive reactions from it. And I'm not sure how connected or unconnected, but I also want to talk about your art.
Yeah, completely connected.
Yeah,
interlinked.
So. Was art something... I think it's awesome, by the way.
Thank you.
I think it's really, really impressive. And is that something that you did before you got into psychedelics at all?
Now, as a kid, I was always drawing. Always drawing when I should have been working in school and stuff like that. I would always draw. And it's a really funny thing. We have to come back to this. I'll just say to you at the end as well. But I loved art. I was painting in school, and as soon as I left school, I stopped. I didn't do a thing for years till 2014. And then it's interlinked. I wanted to show people what I'd seen, how I'd seen it, and what it had done for me. And that's what I do with my art. Not all of it. Some of it's funny, some of it's silly.
Yeah.
But it's interlinked. So it's reawakened. Basically, Dan, it's reawakened my creativity side. Because I went through the entire time I was a fighter, Dan, the entire time I was doing MMA, everything got put by the wayside. I was doing nothing else with my life. It was just MMA or judo or combat sports.
Yeah.
Nothing else sort of came in much. But now... Yeah, the art is therapy in itself. Art therapy is good, and it's an actual real thing, and I bloody enjoy it. I love doing it, and I'm brave enough to put it out there. Some of it's shit. I know it is, but I put it out there, and you have to put it out there. And I have sold a lot,
really,
from just someone who's a hobbyist. I've sold a lot of art, a lot of paintings, because art's very subjective.
Yeah.
And I'll do something that you think's rubbish, but mate, he sat next to you, it will talk to him in a way that he connects with it. So that's what it is. It's not fine art, Dan. It's not. It's my art.
Yeah.
It's just what I'm doing, and I like it. I really enjoy it, and it's a natural progression for me. It's something I left when I was a kid, and now I'm back at it. Now, that interesting thing that I wanted to say to you is, when I was a kid, I was obsessed by insects, drawing, fighting, and skating.
Okay.
right? I had fighting in the middle, and now I'm doing back to all of those things that I
Skating
want
as well?
to do. Skating, I skate all the time. I'm doing all of the things that I did when I was a kid. All of the things. It's mental. It's just, I've only thought of that the last few weeks.
Yeah.
It's just crazy. I'm doing all the things I was doing when I was little. And do you know what? It's because they're fun. And they bring something to my life. And through doing psychedelics, it's made me a bit more childlike.
Yeah.
Again, you know, not childlike like that. Childlike, playful. And it's made me more fun. And it's made me get back to all of these things that bring joy to my life. And when people see that, when nice people see that you're enjoying yourself and you're having fun, that joy spreads. And, you know, mate, you can't, that's what life's about for me.
Yeah, well, you know, you mentioned childlike, and, you know, you could even tell as you said it, you sort of felt the negative connotations of it that society has created, where society says, no, once you grow up, you don't want to be a child. Being a child is bad. Everything to do with being a child or childlike is a negative. But of course, it couldn't be further from the truth, because, you know, there's a purity, and like you said, you know, doing things just because they're enjoyable, just because they're fun. I think that's something that modern society almost beats out of you, that if you're not doing something utilitarian, that you're wasting your time doing it. And I think creative endeavors is one thing that every single person, I believe, and I believe now so more than ever, that everyone should have some sort of creative outlet.
Yeah.
And that creativity may be the most human thing that we have the capability to do.
Yeah.
You know, that no one is, it's hard to prove that any other sentient life is able to produce even the very abstract concept of creativity, but we can. And so many people don't have an outlet for that. And for me, you know, that's always an issue that I've had, and I've felt that the only place I could ever really be creative was on the jiu-jitsu mats. Yeah. You know, that's my only outlet, that is my only possible outlet of creativity. But for someone like yourself who's found something that, you know, oh, screw it, I like doing this as a kid, I'm going to do it as an adult, and then actually to see the work that you produced and how much better it's getting as well. You know, I'm sure that you can also see how much it's improving.
Yeah, man.
Be whatever it is, be it poetry or be it painting or drawing or writing or whatever. Having some sort of creative outlook as an adult is an important thing to have.
Yeah, it really is. And also as well, it kind of happens when you have children as well. You know, you can either go and be this boring parent and have these wonderful children grow up, you know, very clever, intelligent, or you can just be I'm just silly with my kids. I'm just silly. And they see me painting, they want to get involved. Yesterday we were doing clay in the garden. Me and my little girl, she had an inset day, so we were doing clay in the garden. Sunday we were out rollerblading. You know, don't get me wrong, I'm not the ideal perfect dad, I'm not, but I take the opportunities to be silly with them, sometimes to the detriment of discipline, but Dan, this is just what I do, mate. And it's just how through rediscovering myself through psychedelics, it's helped me reconnect to my silly side and my fun side, you know, because everything, when you're a professional fighter, everything can be a bit serious, and you're constantly thinking about the future. You're not thinking about now, because you're prepping, you're constantly preparing, dieting, eating. And as much as being a fighter has shaped the way that I am, I've needed the psychedelics to bring me back down to earth and to bring me back down to now and who I am and what I'm about and what I want to do. You know, yeah, I'm a fighter, but I'm also a human being, you know, and you lose that. I lost it. I lost it when I was a fighter, because as soon as I stopped fighting, I got depressed, you know, and that's what's happened to me. That's what's happened.
Do you think that is what caused it? Was the sort of having your identity so connected, because this is something
Maybe
you see.
you did.
This is something that you see with so many fighters. You know, this is why sort of one of the saddest things you see in combat sports is a legendary fighter unable or seemingly not knowing when to hang it up and kind of walk off into the sunset. This idea of walking off into the sunset as a fighter, because it becomes such a integral part of your personality for so many years.
Yeah.
You know, and Anderson Silva is a great example of, you know, who was spoken about as the greatest of all time for a long time, you know, relegated to, you know, being beaten by people who wouldn't even, you know, have the honor of holding his bucket of water in his prime, you know, realistically, you know, to not mince my words. And I imagine he thinks, you know, he must struggle with, well, what is he if not a fighter? Is that something that you struggled with? And if so, is that something that the psychedelics was able to sort of help heal for you?
I think I got depressed because I wasn't, because I listened to my ego a bit too much, and that's dangerous if it's negative. And it didn't help that I didn't have anything to prepare for. You know, losing's horrible, Dan, and you know, when you lose fights, it adds and adds and adds and adds if you keep losing. So all of those factors and just normal general life can beat you down. And if you let it beat you down, you know, that's when you get stuck. And that's where I was. I didn't have too many thoughts on who I was back then, really. I was just fighting at that time. Then I took ayahuasca and I stopped. Overnight, I stopped. And then I got...
Stopped fighting?
Stopped fighting, stopped MMA.
Was that what made you stop fighting?
Yeah. I didn't want to smash another human in the face.
Really?
Jiu-Jitsu's different. Jiu-Jitsu is really, for me, this is not everyone, but for me, it's a really intelligent pastime.
Yeah.
And I love it. But for the MMA, I stopped teaching it. I had popular MMA classes at the gym. I stopped teaching it. I passed that on to someone else. And
just immediately from that trip?
Yeah, and I eventually filtered it away. We don't do MMA in the gym anymore.
Wow.
And that was just personal choice. There's still a market for it. Not so much a market down here in Dorset at the moment, for whatever reason. I don't know why. Yeah, so that was a big thing. That was a big change for me. That was. So yeah, it does change you. I can't remember where we're going with that.
Very interesting, Matt. We're going to have to wrap up real soon, just only because the Team Scramble are going to get upset if we hold them past however long we need to keep them here. I guess, you know, final things from you. Really, I feel like we could chat about stuff forever.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess you seem like someone who has grown so much, especially sort of in the past 7 years or whatever since you had that. So my final question to you would be, what lessons have you learnt now? What do you know now? What wisdom do you have now that you may wish that you could have said, if it is, you know, it may be the case where you feel like you had to go through all of that in order to get to where you are today. But if you could go and teach a lesson and impart wisdom of you today to a you of the past, what would that be?
So one of the main things related to the way that I was back then with the sport and everything, one of the main things that there's loads of lessons, Dan, but there's one profound teaching for me that it's a mindset. And it's directly to jiu-jitsu. And I think that I've become better at jiu-jitsu through my psychedelic experiences. Indirectly or directly, it doesn't matter. This is me personally, right? And every single psychedelic experience is personal. So no one else can relate to this no one else can go and do it and go, oh yeah, that's going to work for me like it did for Jeff, because it doesn't do that. It gives you what you need at that time. But anyway, so one of the most profound things is, and this sounds pretty harsh, but it's on sports performance. And the reason that I like to, kill or be killed or go out and perform is because no one, Dan, no one really cares, right? Nobody really cares. And if you take care, oh, I've got to do this for my team. I've got to do this for my coach. I've got to do this for my parents. Oh, I've got to show my children how good I've got to do this for whoever. They don't care. A little bit of them loves you and a little bit of them does care. But you're not going to stop being your mother's son because you lost at Polaris. You're not going to stop being part of your team because you've only got a bronze medal at the Euros. No one cares. You're still going to be Dan at the end of that, and I'm still Jeff at the end of my competitions. So that was a really profound thing for me, because that lifted pressure to know that I'm still going to be me. If I lose this fight, it doesn't matter. I didn't have that mindset my entire MMA career. It was only when I started the Polarises and the Euros and the successes that I've had in Jiu-Jitsu, because I took that pressure off. I took that weight off, that no one, and I have to say it to myself, no one really cares. My little boy would get upset if I lost, and my wife would be upset for 10 minutes. Oh, he lost his fight, that was it. Dan, no one cares. No one really, really cares. At the end of the day, it comes down to you. And it comes down to how much enjoyment you're going to get out of that competitive match. So if I was to go back to say to my younger self, go and have fun in this arena that you're in. If it's an MMA fight, have fun. Show people what you can do, because they'll forget about it tomorrow.
Yeah.
And that'd be it. And it just lifts the pressure. And I think a lot of younger sports people that feel a lot of pressure, performance pressure, if they just knew that, well, people do care, but they don't care to the degree that you think they care.
Yeah.
And that was a really profound thing for me, Dan. That really made me enjoy competing. Like the fights on Polaris that I've done, you just enjoy it. Go out there and enjoy it. Everyone enjoys fighting. But for me, because I guess I had a mental block of, I've got to win, I've got to perform, I've got to show you how tough I am. And all these people will like me so much more because I've done this. No one cares. I've got to tell myself that no one cares as much as you do.
100%. It's, I couldn't agree more. Couldn't agree more.
Because we're all going to be dead soon.
100%. Soon the sun will swallow the earth, and all the records will be gone anyway.
That's it. So just enjoy it.
Jeff, I've been wanting to talk to you for so long. Yeah, man. It's been an absolute pleasure. Really, really enjoyed that, mate. Yeah. I feel like we could go on for hours.
We could.
Thank you very much for sitting down and having a conversation.
Thanks for having me.
I appreciate it very much. Cheers.
Cheers, Dan.
That is all, guys. I hope you enjoyed that episode. If you want to find out more, if you want to follow Jeff, then you can check him out on Instagram. His handle is Mr_Ippon. That's IPPON. Or if you want to check out his gym, want to follow his gym, or if you want to go train with the man himself down in Bournemouth, then the Instagram handle for his gym is Ippon Gym, no spaces, no underscore. And he even has an Instagram for his art, which is really_bad_art, which it isn't at all. I actually really like it. So you go check those out. If you want to follow me on Instagram and you haven't already, it's absolute madness. But there you go. If you haven't, then please go and decide if you want to follow me on Instagram. But if you did, it would be at Raspberry_ape. You can also go subscribe or check out my YouTube page, which is youtube.com/raspberryape. I've got a few things on there. I have all of these podcasts are on there in video format as well. which if you're watching, you will already know. But if you're only listening, if you want to go watch it at the same time, you can do that. So go check that out. You can also check out my website, which is raspberryape.com. And if you want to email me, you can email me at podcast@raspberryape.com. Finally, if you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe on whatever platform you are listening to this on, be it YouTube if you're watching, or if you're listening on iTunes or Stitcher or SoundCloud or Spotify, all of these various platforms. And if you can, actually, I never tell people to do this, but if you can, if you like this podcast or any of these podcasts that I do, then go ahead and feel free to go onto iTunes and leave a little review, and it makes me feel warm and fuzzy inside. Apart from that, thank you very much for listening, and I will catch you next time. Take it easy.